Today we're taking a look at the 5e spell effects from ArcKnight games. This is a big set of templates that you can use for the different spells and effects in your games. They're made of thin but really sturdy plastic, and they have little text reminders of the spells that are probably the most commonly used with that template. So we'll start out with the biggest of the templates, and here we have a 100 foot by 5 foot lightning bolt. It is very long. You can see it stretches quite a distance, and again, like I said, we have the little text that reminds you the very basics of what the spell does. We'll move on from the lightning bolt to the next extremely large piece, and that is this huge 60-foot cone. Good old cone of cold right there. So in play, you would take your spellcaster, you would hold this above the miniatures and kind of look through this transparent piece and see which of the minis are affected by your spell. Instead of having to like count spaces and try to imagine it, you literally just plop this down and look down through the transparency and see exactly which monsters are affected. The set comes with 3 pages of these, but the pages are really big and they're really well organized so that you get a ton of them on the page. But we have lots of different effects. Here we have the Wall of Fire. Set that down. We have a Tidal Wave, Wall of Thorns, Dragonborn Breath. I know in my campaign that one will be helpful, although the player in my game actually has the cone. Hey, here we go. There's the cone version. So say your little dragonborn friend wants to shoot their breath weapon, you can just plop that down and see exactly what monsters it's going to hit. Very nice. Moving right along though, we've got the Gust of Wind spell. I'm only naming these because of the reminder text on each one. There are tons of effects in the game that use similarly sized templates, and so you may use one of these for multiple different spells, but only have the reminder text here. Sleet Storm and Meteor Swarm. Fear, that's a cool one. Darkness. And I do like how a lot of these are like not the full transparency. They make it really easy to just lay it down on the map and leave it there so that you can play atop it, and then when it comes up, you don't have to move every single thing in the middle. It's a minor thing, and I don't know if it was intentional or if it just happened to play out that way because they were trying to save space on the print sheets, but I really appreciate the ones that have holes in the middle, oddly enough. We have some other big templates here. The Fog Cloud. That's another one that I would want to probably leave on the table. The classic Fireball. No open middle in this one, but this is one that you would hold over the table and not need to leave on the table. Fairy Fire, I believe. Yes, indeed, Fairy Fire. Another one that you would hold over, not need to leave on the table. Web. That one has an empty center. Again, another one that you might want to leave on the table. I just love how that worked out. I wonder how intentional that was. Either way, I like it. Hypnotic Pattern. I also love the artwork that's on the edges of these things. Because the middle is clear or literally empty, they've done a lot with this semi-transparent artwork along the edges. It just looks really nice and is a cool effect on the tabletop. Kind of reminds me of the different effects that you can add to Foundry when you're running a VTT. They're not going to be animated like they are on Foundry, but still a very cool little effect that you can put on your table. Shatter for this one. Let's see, what was this one? Moonbeam? No. Anti-Magic Field. Globe of Invulnerability. Both really cool effects. There's the old Moonbeam. I was thinking that was a little big for Moonbeam, but very cool. What's this last one? Thunderwave. Another very common low-level spell. Then there are a ton of these, I guess, markers to help you remember conditions. I don't see myself using these as much, but they're still really cool to have. This would be a giant ape for like a wild shape druid. There's also the brown bear. Looks like there were a couple more of those. Where did I put them? Yeah, there's a bunch of these. This guy, whatever that is, maybe a bird of some sort. There's the wolf, another common wild shape option. Whatever this guy is. Is it a bull? Seems a little small for a bull, though. I don't know. There's this guy. I guess you could also use these for monster tokens. That would be fine to do. There's the black bear. This little, is it a fox? Maybe? A cat? Familiar. Yeah, that's cool. So maybe some of these smaller ones were actually intended to be familiars. That kind of makes sense. And what are you? An owl? Yeah, I think that's an owl. I'm not entirely sure. But then we have a bunch of really small reminder text things for different types of spells. Animate Dead, Arcane Eye. Many of these are things that you would want to mark on the tabletop. Invisible, Animate Dead, Reduce. Class abilities. We got some Bardic Inspiration here. Hold Person is a good one. Haste. Mage Armor. That one, I wouldn't love that one. That seems like something you just mark on your character sheet and not need to leave on the table. But we got Charmed. Spiritual Weapon. That's super cool. One of those things that you definitely need something to mark the spot on the board. Also, this helps you remember the ability there with the reminder text. That's very cool. Armor of Agathis. Another animate dead. Freedom of movement. I know this camera is struggling to stay focused, but we're getting there. Shield. That's another one I probably wouldn't have put on here. But they probably had some extra space, and we're just trying to make sure that they used every inch of the sheet. Another animate dead. Magic Weapon. Cool. Stone Skin. And then a few bigger ones that I forgot. There's Fire Shield. Got a little mixed up here. We got, what is this guy? Grease. Fun lower level spell. And Call Lightning. And some inspiration tokens, which I wish there were more of those if you were going to use them. But because these big templates are so doggone useful, I just can't imagine leaving these at home moving forward. I already used these in some games that I ran at Gen Con and loved them. And then when I got back from Gen Con and realized that I left them in my Gen Con bag and didn't bring them to my first session that I ran after I got home, I was very disappointed. But in general, I love these. I'm going to continue using them. They look great on the tabletop. They're very handy, very helpful for running the game and reminding you what effects are in play. I definitely recommend.